Alright, so yesterday I did my valve cover gasket, my 97 Cherokee, and I didn't film it because it was dark out, but this is the things that I did to get it done, and here's a couple tips and tricks to help you out with it. Alright, so first off is getting everything out of the way. Up here is this front crankcase breather, or PCV valve, whatever they consider it. Very careful with this. They're really brittle. Hold the valve with one hand and just take your time wiggling this hose off back and forth. Then I also took it off the air box here, so I took it off of here first, freed up some room, and then that let me move this whole hose around quite a bit. Then you got the one in the back here. Same thing, just really take your time with it and hold this valve so you don't break it. If you do, you can find them, and if you were to break it, also get this grommet here. So here's the valve and here's the grommet. You're going to want both if you end up snapping this off. Next thing I did was I just popped out the throttle cable, which this longer one's a throttle cable. It's got a clip here, fill it around, and then it's got a clip here in the back. Just pop those up, and because it's an old Jeep with junk plastic, I didn't want to risk removing the throttle cable. So all I did was snap it off, and I just took something and bent it back here out of the way to make it clear the valve cover. But that way I didn't have to unclip it and risk breaking anything. Okay, so next is this cruise cable. Now this you have to disconnect. There's no way around it. So what you do is here, you'll see, I don't know if the camera will show it, but there's a little opening in it right here. So what you do is you grab it and you slide it to the right. It'll pop off, and then you just lift the linkage, and it should pop right off. And then so this black piece will be disconnected. And then what you do is you grab some needle nose pliers, and you'll see there's this clip right here, and you squeeze on both ends like that. You just pinch them together and push, and it'll pop through this hole going that way, and then that'll be free. And then you'll pop it out of this clip, and I just kind of tucked it under here, underneath this wire, or underneath this hose going to the coolant overflow. That gets those out of the way. So next you've got your heater hoses. Pop those out, and there's this little clip right here for it. You'll just twist that and pop that off. It's sitting on a stud down there. You'll see what I mean once these hoses are out of the way. There's also back there, right there my finger is, there's another little plastic retainer for the wiring harness. Just take some pliers and pull that off. That just slips over that stud. And then for the spark plug wires, there's two 8mm bolts that go on studs. There's one about right, if your camera can show it, there's one right there, and there's another one back there, but mine's missing. So there's that'll slide off. And then the last thing is going to be this plastic retainer for the wiring harness. There's three things that hold it down. There's the one there, there's one here in the middle, and then there's one there in the back. And then so for those, I just took a screwdriver and pried up. It takes a while. It's old plastic. Just take your time with it. Move them up a little bit at a time. That'll eventually pop off. Whether you actually have to remove that or not, I don't know, but I did anyway, just to make sure it wasn't interfering with anything. So once you got all that out of the way, and then what I also did was I took this upper heater hose and I just hooked about right here with a hanger, and just kind of held it over to the side because you can see it, this kind of, if you were to put the valve cover on, it kind of get in the way. So I just kind of peeled it away to just keep it out of the way. So yeah, after that, everything should be disconnected. Yep, that should be everything. So once that's disconnected, you've got, I think it's 15 bolts that go all the way around. They're all, I believe, 7/16. Don't quote me on that, but I lied. these two bolts are not 8mm. The two for the wire, for the spark plug wires, those are also 7/16. I think everything here is 7/16. If I remember right, I did it late last night. So you've got all the bolts that go all the way around it, and then just when you set them down, put them in the orientation you took them out, because some are going to be bolts and some are going to be studs like that. So just when you go around, just make sure you keep them in the same order, because some are bolts, some are studs. Should just take an extension, maybe 3" long and a 1/4" ratchet. They should all come loose pretty easy. You're going to need a deep wall socket as well, because the studs, you'll need a deep wall to get over them. You'll pull those out, and then after that, just give the valve cover a little shake left and right. It should come loose. And when you come to take it off, you're going to think it's pretty tough to lift up, and that's because it's getting caught on stuff. It's going to get caught on that back bolt right there. That bolt right there, the valve cover kind of slides under that. And then also this upper radiator hose right here, but a mixture between that and the metal pipe going to the water pump, those two things kind of get in the way. So what you need to do is you need to kind of twist it to the left and kind of slide it backward to get it lodged off of that that bolt over there. And then after that, you want to lift it to you want to lift the right side up and pull away to get it to clear this stuff over here. After that, the valve cover should come out. You're going to want to clean up all the material around there. It's going to be grimy. I spent probably about, I'd say, 2 hours between cleaning everything, because this thing was so freaking grimy. This valve cover, whenever I put my hand here, it'd come back up black. I mean, this thing was awful. So after that, clean the surface where the gasket goes really well. And then you're going to want to take all of these grommets out, this little metal thing that looks like a washer. It's a grommet, and under that is a rubber grommet, and this metal is just for the bolt. It is kind of like a washer. You have to take all those out. If you get the Fel-Pro gasket, it should come with new grommets, and you're going to want new grommets. So you're going to take those out, clean the surface of the valve cover up really good where those grommets sit. Clean the bottom of the valve cover really well where the gasket sits. And then pop the new grommets in. I spent the time to clean up these washers. You really don't have to, but I did because they were awful. So I did that. And then you pop the rubber in first, and then you pop in the metal washer, and put those grommets and washers in before you put the valve cover in, because I screwed up and I had to redo it. So before you put the valve cover back in, put in those rubber grommets and put in the metal washers. And then as far as putting it back in, when you get the new gasket, there's going to be two holes. There's going to be a bigger one, and there's going to be a smaller one. And the bigger one is elongated, the other one is just a circle. And they're both going to go on the left side of the engine, because there's 2 pins that align the gasket. When you pull the old gasket off, pay attention to which hole is what. They're both going to be on the left side. There's going to be a bigger one and a smaller one. Honestly, I think you could probably flip them, but I wasn't going to find out. So mine, the bigger hole was in the front, I believe. So just pay attention to that when you pull the old gasket off. Just make sure you get everything oriented the same way, and make sure when you put your gasket on that everything sits flat. And then, yep, you put that on. You don't need RTV or anything. And then just when you put the valve cover back in, same thing, tilt it to the left, drop it down and in, make sure you clear all this junk here, down and in, and set it down. And when you set it down, the back of it might be sitting up just a hair. And if it's at all, if you can rock the valve cover at all pushing down on it, it is not sitting flat. So shake it back and forth a little bit. Not hard, but just enough to move it, and you'll feel it pop, and it'll pop down. And once it's sitting flat, I mean, just like it's bolted down now, you will not be able to rock it back and forth. So there's that. And then the one that got me and the reason it's broken is these little retainers for the spark plug wires. I had it tucked behind this heater hose and it slipped out. And when I put my valve cover down, it felt fairly solid, but it wasn't completely solid, and I tightened everything down and went to go slide the retainer for the spark plug wires back on, and I'd pinched it between the valve cover and the head. So don't make that mistake. Luckily I had caught it, just missed the gasket, so I didn't hurt the gasket at all. I'm lucky I didn't crack the valve cover. So yeah, don't make that mistake. Other than that, make sure that you don't have to do it in a star pattern. Yes, there is a technical way to do it. Normally you start in the middle and alternate going out so that you evenly distribute everything. I just hand tightened all the way around first, snugged it up a second time, and then third time around I tightened it down finally. And again, this does not have to be tight, just to the point to where it stops. I mean, when you feel it stop turning, I mean, you kind of get that feeling of, okay, it's bottomed out, you're good. You know, it doesn't have to be tight. I did everything with one hand. You know, it's not something that's got to be real tight. And then other than that, just make sure that you rehook everything back up. You know, popping these hoses back on, that should be easy. Make sure to put your throttle cable back in the right spot. You didn't disconnect this from here, so you're fine there. The cruise control, make sure you pop it back in its clip here. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna slide the cable in first, and then that little plastic piece, make sure it's horizontal, just like the one next to it, and you'll pop it in and it'll snap in there. And then to put this cable back on, you're gonna hold this lever back, slide the black piece over and pop it back to the left, and you'll hear it pop back in, and it's on there. Other than that, you got to push these back down, back over those studs there. There's the one wiring harness in the back there, you got to push back down, and then the spark plug wires, those will fit over those studs. Tighten those down. There should be the two of those with the two nuts. And then finally, there's this plastic retainer here for the heater hoses. You'll put that back over the stud and then pop these hoses back in. And then other than that, that should be everything. I mean, and then just check for leaks, make sure nothing's leaking, and you should be good to go. The only difference is mine's a manual, so I do not have the transmission shift linkage here. I think that's for when it downshifts. So I do not have that. I couldn't even tell you where it goes or how it looks, because like I said, this one's a manual. So other than that, that should be it, and good luck cleaning everything, because it is a grimy job.